Today I want to help you touch a problem and create a healthy habits about the second biggest thing with building muscle, building strength, next to going to the gym. And it is calories. Eating, basically. But today I want you to focus on creating a habit of tracking your calories, counting your calories. We'll go about how to start, how to basically do that. We'll go about some tricks and ways to make it easier for yourself. We're gonna talk about the ways not to basically lose your sanity doing it, not overdo this, so you don't drop out of it. We're gonna come back to that. And basically to, as I've said, create a healthy habit towards counting calories as it is, I believe, the second most important thing about the gym, about creating muscle. If you want to focus on that, you need to have your calories in control. So first, how to start? We need the amount of calories you should be eating. And for that, there are many calculators, many ways to calculate that. And the best approach basically is to calculate it in the internet, in any calculator. Or if you want to be more precise, take 3 or 5 and get the average amount of your maintenance calories. So the amount of calories you should be eating, provided that you train X times a week, that you are moderately active or no active or very active, you choose that. And those calculators basically normal tick marks. Okay, I have moderate activity. Okay, I train 3 times a week. You choose that, you calculate. You of course put your weight and height as it is also used for the calculator, and you get the average maintenance. If you are training with moderate activity and you have moderate day activity, like average of gym goers, not average of normal people, there's a basic formula. You basically take your weight and we multiply it by a number from range of 30 to 35. And it will give you this maintenance that I was talking about in a very simple, averaged way, because none of these calculations is gonna be exact. But we don't aim to be perfect here, because we basically can be perfect. The amount of calories that is written on every piece of food you buy in the shop is also not perfect, because there's no actual way to perfectly count this. So don't bother about it that much. You need to have this average point of view of where you are on the scale of eating. How much should you eat basically around to keep the weight? Because as we know that, now we have to choose what you want to do. If you want to stay on your weight, you eat this amount of calories. If you want to bulk, if you want to build more muscle, you feel that you're skinny, you want to put on some muscle, and it's also gonna create some fat later to be cut. But if you're not like skinny fat guy, if you're not insecure about your size, and we're not talking about muscles, go on the bulk. And it depends here on how much you want to put on. I would advise you from adding 200 to 500 calories to this calorie number that we counted like last minute. You may now stop the video and find those calculators if you want, so I'm gonna keep track of every step here. But it's not gonna be complicated. You can also do this after the video. So if you want to bulk, I'd add from 200 to 500 calories to that. As I've said, it depends on how much you want to put on and what is your activity. Because this activity is very important. Like, you could calculate it by your weight with the formula I used, but if your activity is very higher, basically, so you like train 6 times a week, you cycle to your job 2 times a day, and you go for a running on Sunday, this number of 30 to 35 is gonna fuck you up because it's too low, basically. That's how this works. So if you want to bulk, you add those calories. If you want to cut, we invert this. So you delete, you subtract from 200 to 500 calories. If you want to go strict, because some people want to go strict on this, I would partially discourage you from going too strict, because this could affect the muscle you already have. If you go too low and eat too less, the muscles you've already done are gonna disappear. Of course, not fully, but that's not what we want. So be careful on that. Right now I'm eating around minus 500 calories for my maintenance, and I've been able to drop right now, not to lie to you, 11 kilograms since December, since the end of December. So I believe that this is a number that could satisfy your needs if you want to cut, and it doesn't involve cutting more than 500. You just have to be consistent on it. That's something we'll also come back to, but the basics, you take your number, you calculate it somewhere, somehow. It's not that hard. You modify it by the goal you have, and now you know how much you should be eating. Next step is to take it to some calorie tracking app. Any you could find. MyFitnessPal, I use Fitato personally. There are also many more, I believe, these days especially. Choose one, find one that seems comfortable for you, and go and input your personal data, your weight, your height, your calorie maintenance that you know, because this is gonna calculate also, but it's like another of those calculators. You could take into the average instead of trusting it more, because it's basically the same accuracy. Some algorithm meant to count that. If you combine them all, you get the most accurate score. But you put that in, you put your macros, because it's also gonna calculate your macronutrients. And of course, you want to go as high in protein as you can, as low in fat as you can, and fill the rest with carbs. So I'd advise, like, let's say, no, I'm not gonna say percentages, because I've been experimenting with that on myself, and I don't know my percentages myself. But right now I'm eating around 150 grams of protein a day, which would be, out of that, 600 calories. So in my 230, it would be around 25% to 30. I eat around, on average, 70 to 80 grams of fat, which is not low, but it's lower than I used to. So it's still a W for me. And from that, I would guess that I get around also 700 calories. Yeah, so another 25%, something like that. And the rest filled with carbs. So you of course can go and find those numbers somewhere provided on your goal. Because if you are bulking, you want to put more carbs into the calculator. You want to put more carbs into the equation, because they give you energy. And if you're cutting, of course, focus on as low fat as you're comfortable with. And the matter of being comfortable also, don't overlook that. Don't say that, okay, I'm comfortable eating McDonald's 2 times a day. Fuck off. Basically, choose the number that you're able to stick to without going insane. You're gonna experiment on that, and that's good, because you have to find the perfect spot for you, where you go a step out of your comfort zone. Not being in the comfort zone, and not going a mile out of your comfort zone, because you're gonna be running back to this comfort zone. As we have that settled, you put those numbers in, and you're basically shown with your day on the calorie up track up. But you're shown your day, basically. For me, it's separated into different times a day, so like breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, something like that. I don't really care about what I put where. Like, the amount of calories of, let's say, protein shake, put into the snack, and put into the dinner, and put into the breakfast will be the same. It's not gonna change anything. If you want, you can put everything in the breakfast. Some apps probably don't even separate those times, but Sure. Now you're shown with your tool of tracking calories. How to use that? If you have something organic, something not processed, something that doesn't have a barcode, something not packed, that's where the part is on your guessing or your preparation. Because it's not that hard, especially after you practice, to estimate of the weight of the thing that is. Because it's not hard, I don't have to explain that you put the name and you find chicken breast, let's say. But to measure that, if you want to go about being precise, and that's good, you basically buy yourself a kitchen weight and you check the weight of the chicken breast. But if you don't want to, or if you want to do it quicker, estimate. Google up how much does a chicken breast weigh and see on the photo that is shown if yours is bigger and smaller. And basically estimate of how much you're eating. You might say that no, it's not professional, that is bad. Why? As I've said, it's difficult to count the calories to being the exact, because even like the companies, even the creators of food, which like processed food, that know what they're putting in, don't know the amount of calories, because we're not basically able to count that. So if you're mistaken by 30 or 40 calories, why bother? Especially that if you are mistaken above on one thing, you can be mistaken below on the other. So the final balance will be not shattered. So if you have organic food, use one of those two methods. If you have like something packed, if you go to McDonald's, if you buy yourself some packed food, you can find it in the database probably, or scan the barcode. If your app doesn't have barcode scanner, first of all, it's not a good app, I believe. Second of all, you can find the name and put it in, because those apps come with client-used databases that a lot of products that you could buy are actually in it. If something lacks, it might ask you to put it into the database. But for me, it basically happened like 3 times. And summing up, I've been using the Fitato app for at least a year. And I believe a year and a half. It was a shorter journey because I also had the time where I didn't want to count the calories. Because that's where we're gonna get right now. You know the way to count the calories, but you still don't know the way to do it like healthy for your mind. Because I had a very good cut at the very beginning. I went like it was even before I started training at the gym or even started training at home. I've basically cut my calories and went from 93.5 to 86.5 within 6 weeks. 7 kilos in 6 weeks. It was amazing for me. But later, after that, when I went on a bulk, when I then got confused about what should I be doing, counting calories was pain in the ass. Because I was going too strict. As I've said, it's even not possible to count the calories to the exact. And if you're not preparing for some competition, counting in smaller accuracy than to hundreds is a suicide for your mind. Basically, focus on counting to the hundreds. So not the first digit, not the second digit, the third digit. That's basically it. And don't get so overreactive on what you eat. Like even though you count calories, you're still allowed to eat McDonald's from time to time. If you go out with, let's say, your classmates, you want to go out with them, but you don't know if you will fit McDonald's into it. Yes, you will. And of course, it's not good for you. But from time to time, yes, you might. You don't know if you will feed the birthday cake. Of course you will. That's the neat part. You still can, by counting calories, you're gonna have the sense of limit throughout the day. So if you eat something bad, something calorie dense, something we could call a cheat meal, you are now aware how much you are left throughout the day. And if you are able to stick with the last amount, that amount that you are left with, you still maintain your day calories. Maybe your macros got fucked up for a day. Happens. Might happen. No matter to go over on yourself about it. Of course, if you want to eat McDonald's every day, I don't know why we're talking about counting calories. It's not gonna be healthy for you. And it's gonna fuck you up on different levels than normal calories. And it's not a good thing for you. But if it happens from time to time, you're able to basically live with that and still progress with that. That's the neat part. So this trick not to lose your sanity is to, 1, not go too strict on counting, and 2, not go too strict on food. That now I'm counting and so I can't eat anything bad because it will be written in the app. Who cares? You're the only person who's gonna see it. Maybe some apps have the friends, like, you could add your friends to your calorie tracking app and see their goals and they see yours, maybe. But even though, if you added your friends, they're your friends, and they're for the sake of helping you there. So they're gonna likely say the same thing as I am. Why did you do this, McDonald's? Okay, it happened once. Sure, good. So the way not to lose on counting calories, because it's a habit to be implemented, and for a habit you need time. So now you know how to start it and how to continue it, because putting the food on day 1 will be the same as putting the food into it on day 1000. And you know how to stick with that. You know the ways, the hacks, the tricks, basically the approach, the mindset, not to go over on yourself and due to that drop out of it. And now, with its knowledge, go and make your way to a better future.